right there appears to happen at the exact same time that you're tapping and touching something else, and you are nowhere near them, and you are not touching them. When I first started out with PK Touches, I did not have a routine. But I wanted to write up the method for magicians. But then I thought to myself, if I just wrote up the method, it would only be like a page or two. And they would go, well, what is that? So I put a routine together. And I'd never done the routine before, but I went out to about 12 different high schools. It was high school time, lock-in time, it was prom time, and I did it, and I performed it. And it got a fantastic reaction. I said, this is a great routine. That's the routine I'm going to put in the book. So I put that in the book, and that's what went out there. And basically it was about an uncle who passed away that I was very close to. It was a practical joker that would tap you on one shoulder, and you turn around, and it'd be on the other side every time. And then when he passed away, I heard those taps as well, and Uncle Charlie's always with us. So yeah, sort of a bizarre routine, but it was just an example. Confabulation is a fantastic effect. And when Alan Saxton came out with it, I think he came out with a dream car, and it was the make of the car, the model of the car, the license plate, and the price of it, and an invoice came out, and that's what it was. And when he first put that out, everybody started doing dream car. Now, I don't know if he was upset or not, but I'm going to suspect that he was upset because it was just a tool. It wasn't the routine that he was trying to give you. He was giving you this fantastic tool to predict anything, because your prediction ends up inside of an envelope. You show that you predicted every single one of those things. How much thought does it take for you as a magician, if you truly love our art, to sit there and look at it and go, okay, this is fantastic. I can adapt this to myself. I'm a plumber, and I can create a story about me being a plumber, or I work in a florist. It can be a flower. It can be this. It can be that. It doesn't take much work to do that kind of thing. When I started doing confabulation, I changed it completely. No, I didn't do once David Copperfield came out with Dream Date. All those magicians doing Dream Car started doing Dream Date, going out on a dream date with a woman and the date and yada, 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 and the amount of the meal. Why would you want to be like anybody else? Copperfield wouldn't want to be like Chris Angel. Chris Angel wouldn't want to be like Copperfield. He wouldn't want to be like David Blaine. David Blaine wouldn't want to be like any of those. They understand their character. They understand who they are, what they are, and it's why they've risen to the top. Because they truly understand their character. They want to be unique. They want to be different. They don't want to be seen as anybody else. And why would you want to do that if you're a successful magician? Look, let's go back to that old cat thing, okay? And I'll come back to this in just a second. Some of you with the pad folio might say to yourself, you might say, well, I want to do the cat because it's fantastic that I get that smile right there. Well, yeah, it's great if you get the smile, but what if somebody did a show the night before you or last week for that same corporate group, and they did a cat and they got the smile? Now it becomes about the pad folio, doesn't it? It becomes about that. It doesn't become about this amazing thing that you can do. So why don't you think about changing it just a little bit? Just a little bit. Let's go, let's turn it to a fish. Stand back to back, all right? You're back to back right now. And you go ahead and start drawing. Wait, I just got a circle or a semicircle. Does that make any sense to you? Of course it does, because it's the body. Keep going. I got a triangle. Does that make any sense to you? Of course it does. It's going to be the tail. Keep going. Let me know when you're done. Did you forget to put a mouth on that? You get the same thing with a fish, don't you? Yeah, but that's pretty darn close to the cat, isn't it? So how do we change that? Well, on your pieces of paper, what if you wrote down, I have a pet spider named Rosie, and you actually drew a picture of a spider on there with a spider web? So now when you turn to the person when she's sitting right there and you say to her, you say, is there something on there that if I asked you to draw it, you might be able to? Don't tell me, just tell me yes or no. She's going to get a big grin on her face because she's going to go, how the heck does he know there's a picture on there? And then you stand back to back, you draw the spider, and then you can say to her at some point, instead of the mouth, you can say to her, so was there also a spider web with that? She's going to say yes, even if she didn't draw it in her head, because that's what she saw on the paper as well. But to the audience, it's going to be like you got that detail. That opens up this whole world for you. A whole world where you could almost do anything with the pad folio or with switching and duplicating a picture. And it doesn't take much thought to do those things. And it's exactly the same thing with PK Touches. I mean, let's go back to the confabulation. When I did confabulation, I got different versions. I got one where it's a president was assassinated, and you get to, it ends up being a cartoon character. I tell a story about a president was assassinated, but you get to assassinate a cartoon character, the method for the cartoon character, and the date that it happened. Okay, past, present, or future. When I was in my comedy club days, I told a silly little joke, but it set up the whole confabulation for me. And it was basically I used to go, and I was poor when I was a young kid. I was abandoned when I was 9 years old in South Africa with two brothers a year and 3 years old. But anyway, I digress. I used to go visit my grandma, and she lived on a farm. And when we were out on the farm, I used to sit there, and this man used to land these planes, these biplanes, and he used to put up a big sign, $10 plane rides. And people would come from all around the county, and they would come and they'd take these plane rides. But I was too poor. I couldn't take it. So Grandma and I sat there, but we had a lot of fun watching people go off and come off and throw off up afterwards and stuff like that. And finally, the guy came up to me and he said to me, he said, son, he says, wouldn't you like to take a ride? I go, sir, we're very poor. I don't have the money and my grandma doesn't have the money. He says, tell you what, son, I'll make a deal with you. I'll take you and I'll take your grandma. I got enough room for 3 people. I'll take you and grandma up. And if you don't cry out, if you don't say anything at all the entire trip, you get to ride for free. But if you say a single word to me, if you speak to me at all while I'm up there, if you cry out, you say anything, you have to either wash my plane or figure a way out to pay for you and grandma. I go, yeah, I can do that. You ready, Grandma? And Grandma says, yeah, let's go. My grandma was up for everything. So we got in the plane. First thing, he went straight up like that. I think he was trying to scare me. Then he went upside down, and then he did some loops, and he did all this crazy, and I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry out, but I didn't. I kept my mouth shut because I had no money, and Grandma didn't have any money. And so anyway, finally he lands the plane, and he comes over to me, and he says, I could tell he was upset, too, because he thought he was going to scare, he did scare me, but he thought I was going to say something. He says, son, he says, wasn't there a single moment when you wanted to cry out? And I looked him in the eye and I said, well, yeah, you know that first time you went up and Grandma fell out? But that joke now sets up what state we were over, how far did Grandma fall, what did Grandma fall on, or, you know, I mean, it sets up all these different things. So it doesn't take much to think about these things and customize them. And it's exactly...
Banachek, may I interrupt for just a moment? Yeah. Because I'll tell you, especially with the Padfolio, for some guys, they may not be that creative, or they may not think that they are.
Right.
They are, but they don't. They may not think so.